Howdy y'all, Caleb here. This past weekend, went to a tournament and I had to take Stegageddon one last time for the old book. So we're practicing for our big GT that's coming up here in a few weeks. And unfortunately, I have to use the old Seraphon book for this major GT. So I decided to just have fun with it and go Stegageddon. Let's not take this too seriously. Let's just have fun. And so I took 8 monsters. Yes. I wanted one last hurrah for Thunder Lizard, since I'm probably not going to be running Stegageddon anytime soon in the new Seraphon book. And so I wanted to take them all in this list. Having some fun, definitely a narrative list. Here's a rundown. We got a Thunder Lizard subfaction, obviously, in Coalesced, which allows us to do Stegaddons as our battle line. All that still exists in the new book, but I think it gets quite a bit worse in the new book. So, we have a Saurus Scar Veteran on Carnosaur as our general. Only 200 points in the previous book, so this is a very cheap monster. Doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but that's okay for the point costs. War Spear, just to get extra attacks there. A Prime War Beast gives extra attacks for the mount, the Carnosaur. Artifact Fusilier Conflagration does some mortal wounds. Mount trait Beastmaster, which allows you to do either run and charge or extra attacks. Now, most of that stuff's going away, so don't start writing these down and taking notes. I also put in another Saurus Scar Veteran on Carnosaur for another 200 points, and then a Skink Oracle on Troglodon for 250. The reason I took that is because A, I wanted all monsters, and B, the Skink Oracle on Troglodon still had Comet's Call in the previous book. That's also going away. So generally you wouldn't run the Troglodon on its own in Thunder Lizards anymore. But it does have that nice -1 to hit aura in the new book. So, maybe it would still have a role to keep yourself a little bit more defensive. I had 4 Stegaddons as battle line, all of them taking the Skystreak Bow. 3 shots, 3s and 3s, -1, 3 damage. That profile stays the same. It's very nice. When it goes through, it can do quite a bit of damage. But just the quantity of having 4 of them makes it a pretty nice attack there. Then I did include 1 Basildon with Solar Engine. Just to kind of fill it out. I could have taken all of this in... I could have probably lowered my drops if I didn't take the extra 2 monsters, but I had to go narrative. So I was able to fit in 8 monsters here in this list. It is 3 drops, so it's not too bad. But definitely lots of fun. I was trying to figure out if I could actually run this in the new book, and it's way overcosted, but not by... It's easy to fix. So the Scar Veteran is up 55 points in the new book. The Troglodon's up 20. Each of the Steglodons is up 30. And the Basildon is up 5. So you're over by almost 250 points if you were to take this in the new book. It's already not a great list. And so if you're planning on taking it in the new book, you're playing even further down. Probably an easy fix would just be to drop a Stegaddon. But I think in this list, you really probably don't need the Troglodon, because it doesn't have Comet's Call in Coalesced. And so that would probably be the easiest drop right there, and that should get you under the points. Although you'd probably want to find a way to upgrade one of the Scar Veterans to an Old Blood, because that Old Blood command ability would be much better than the Scar Veteran in the new book. So you could run this. It could be doable. I think you'll be capped at 7 monsters. I haven't played around with it a whole lot. I think you might be able to squeeze 8 in there using the Basildon with snakes, but it would be real tight. All right, on to the games. Game 1, I'm playing Couch, and he's running Beasts of Chaos. He's got a Doom Bull as his general, and this thing was terrorizing me. So it had an ability to charge at the start of the combat phase, which just wrecked me at one point. I'll show that to you in a bit. But also has an ability to make you strike last in combat. So very good there. Tough. Didn't do a whole lot of damage, I don't recall, but has some great abilities. He's got 2 Bray Shamans as casters, and then battle line we have some Chaos Spawn, which were pretty interesting because they can be split up when they're set up, and then they're really just there to claim the board, to get in your way, to screen you off, to prevent you from moving. They have some abilities that will let them debuff you, so you're -1 to attacks if you're within 1 inch of these spawns. So if he charges in a bunch, it's cumulative. You can be down a whole lot of attacks, and then that happened, especially with these Stegageddons in my list that have high damage but not a whole lot of attacks. These Chaos Spawns just wreaked havoc on that. Your Sky Streak bow, when you're only firing 1 shot at -1 rend, doesn't feel too good. He had 20 Ungor Raiders, 6 Bulgors, which is kind of his hammer unit here, and then 10 Ungors, Wildfire Taurus, which is another way to make you strike last, Herdstones, some Zangors. Those Zangors I don't think quite performed as well as he had hoped they would. I think I had heard him later on say that would probably be one thing he might change about this list. But a lot of bodies, and weirdly, not a whole lot gets deployed on the board first turn in this list. All he put on the board was the Chaos Spawns, and so everything else is in ambush, and that really gives him a lot of flexibility on how to play turn 1 and turn 2. Just being able to change the board state whenever he wants to based on everything that he's got off of the table. So pretty cool. We're playing close to the chest. Some of these battle plans you're going to see are from the older GHB. Don't ask me why. That's the GT we're going to. They're going to be playing some of the older battle plans. And a lot of these have a ton of objectives. And so those are the ones that we're playing this time. This first one was close to the chest. It does have 6 objectives. Does make you have to spread out a little bit more. You see deployment there. I set up my Realm Shaper Temple. I'm kind of already in the mode of use it aggressively, use it to block, use it to change the lanes on the board, and that helps in this list because I have nobody that could even garrison it using the old rules. So I am kind of setting it up defensively. Here I'm trying to protect my Troglodyte that's down there in the bottom left corner. The last couple inches of the board down here at the bottom are unusable based on the board size, so pretend like a couple inches is off. So it makes it really difficult for anybody to get in behind this Realm Shaper, and that ends up being true. It's going to kind of protect my left flank while I load everything up on the right. I did put a Carnosaur up in the top right deployment area, hoping that maybe he would deploy his hammer, all those Bulgors, and go take out that Carnosaur and keep them off of my main army. He didn't take that bet. He didn't take that bait. He's a better player than that, and so he left that Carnosaur. He sent some Zangors up there after that Carnosaur, the 10 Zangors. They weren't able to take out that Carnosaur, and the Carnosaur was able to slap back and end up killing off those Zangors. It did keep me pinned down 1 turn, which is probably, all they really needed to do. But that Carnosaur actually stayed alive the whole game. You can see his spawns here in the middle, and he's got them lined up on his objective to claim them. There's another one behind that pillar. And I give him first turn because I've got things zoned out to where he can't really get into any of my important things. I mean, my Stegageddons are important, I guess, but he just brings all the Chaos Spawn down into my lines and just kind of pins me in. I think maybe 1 charged, but most of them are just right there to keep me from moving out of my deployment zone. So good stuff there. He's able to drop, shoot and do spells onto the Troglodon and drop his big horde of Ungors over here on the left objective and shoot into that Troglodon. The next picture might be, you can see the Zangor hitting that Carnosaur and then his big unit being dropped in. They nearly killed the Troglodon in 1 turn. That was surprising. Troglodon has quite a few wounds at -1 damage, but he has a lot of shots. And he had some, 1 or 2 spells or something that he could do from off the board that did some mortal wounds to that Troglodon. So nearly killed it. It had 2 wounds left. So the Troglodyte will be healing D3 in my turn. So that's good. And then if I can get heroic recovery on it, maybe I can get this thing back healed up a little bit so it'll stay alive. One thing to note back here, you can see my General Carnosaur right here. He was constantly using one of his abilities to pull that monster back away from my army, and ended up doing pretty good where he was able to pull it over to the far right corner and then able to charge it with some Bulgors here in a bit. So some really cool abilities that Beastmen have. You can see on my turn, let's go back to this other picture here. So on my first turn, he's got his Chaos Spawn down here. I basically clear off all the Chaos Spawn. But that's basically all I could do in my turn. I was able to shoot some of the Ungor that were over here, cause some of them to flee in Battle Shock, but not really enough to make a huge difference. And I was able to get this Carnosaur up onto that objective, I believe. So I killed off all his Chaos Spawn, but that was it. So I think he's happy with that trade. If he's pinned me in and all I'm doing is killing off his Chaos Spawn, he'll take that. He won the roll into 2 and was able to bring down all his Bulgor back here behind the Carnosaur. My General, the Carnosaur. And they have like a crazy +2 to charge. They're coming in at like 7 and +2 to charge, something like that. Very easy to make that charge. So they all get into the Carnosaur, and he brought some Zangor over here into the Stegageddon here. The Zangor basically bounced off the Stegageddon. The Stegageddon was able to kill them off. The Carnosaur got just insta-deleted by the Bulgor and the hero here. Actually, the hero didn't make the charge. So then in my turn, I had to make a decision here. Like, should I press onto the Bulgor, or should I just flip the board state and just run, north, capture all those objectives? Unfortunately, he had me pinned in with this one Zangor that was left, so I knew that Stegageddon was going to have to stay there. I wasn't going to be able to run far enough away from it. It all came, unfortunately, also, in his previous turn, he had gotten this Centaur thing out and killed my Troglodyte. So I had literally no heroes down here in the main part of my army. My only hero left was this Carnosaur up here in the top right. So I couldn't do any command points to these guys. So it came down to if I could run this Carnosaur up the top right, over to the middle. If I could get a 3 or higher, he'd be in range to auto-run one of these Stegageddons and get him onto that far left objective. And at that point, I would have flipped the board. I would control the top 3 objectives and my middle one. And then, he's left here at the bottom with basically his entire army down here at the bottom. And, I can just play keep away until he can make it to me. I can keep shooting him. But I roll a 2 on that run, so he's not in range. Then my run on the Stegageddon is short. So I'm not able to score those objectives, and now I've got to basically just turn my army back around, everybody that didn't run, and try to put as much damage on those Bulgors as possible. So I'm able to do that. I'm able to kill off most of the Bulgor, I think all but 2, but my problem, here's where my error was. I charged this Stegageddon here on the bottom right into the Bulgor, and I stayed within range of his general, his Bulgor general, whatever it's called. And I could only go so far, and I didn't want to send that Stegageddon right into the heart of these Bulgors, but I had to keep him away from the general. So I gambled and kind of went about middle point, and the general was 9 inches away from me. Unfortunately, at the start of combat, the general made that 9-inch charge, and now that Stegageddon is striking last. So I was able to put some damage through with this Stegageddon, enough to kill off about half the Bulgors, but this Stegageddon then just got deleted by the general and the rest of the Bulgors that still got to attack. So I wasn't able to finish off the Bulgors. I lost the Stegageddon on my turn. This Stegageddon wasn't able to capture objectives. Just nothing was going right for me on that turn. So unfortunately, that one didn't go my way. I mean, I can't blame the dice or anything. It was just, that's the way the game played. He was a smart player, and I couldn't get away from that general. He got the turn priority. I think if I had gotten the priority there, I still could have salvaged it by killing off the rest of the Bulgor, capturing all the objectives. But he got the priority there and was able to rally another Bulgor, which he would then go in and kill the other Stegageddon. And, oh, that's the last picture I've got. And was able to take off another Stegageddon over here. So at that point, I think we were able to call it. I can't remember if we played out the rest of the game or not. But I wasn't holding too many objectives. I only had the one Carnosaur up in the top right, and he had killed off most of the rest of my army by the end of that next turn. So, good game, a lot of fun, a lot of movement around the board. I had hoped once he brought everything down, I could effectively switch ends of the table, but my lack of heroes down here with my army really hurt me. So, good game, a lot of fun there against Beastman. Game 2, I'm playing against Simon, and he is playing Orruk Warclans, Big Wah, so he had a little bit of a mixed Orruk list, and he's got a Breaka boss on Mirebrute Troggoth. This one is the, teleport this one if you can with Hand of Gork and get a nice charge, buff him up, and he should be able to kill whatever he touches. A pretty nice little combo there. He's got a Weird Knob Shaman, a Wargog Prophet. The Wargog Prophet, I've been killed by these prophets before. This is not fun when they lift their mask and just absolutely blast you with mortal wounds. So you always got to keep outside of 12 of this prophet so that if they have the next turn, you don't get completely obliterated by their mortals. A Maw Crusher, a Orruk Mega Boss who has Tunnel Master. So this thing can Tunnel Master in, and with Destroyer, it's going to wreck you if it can get a hold of you. So it can do a ton of damage, these Mega Bosses. Then an Orruk War Chanter, which against, a Coalesced army, basically he's playing down 120 points because that War Chanter is going to do 0 because the War Chanter normally buffs up the damage of a unit +1. That doesn't matter against Coalesce because generally you're going to try to put that on the Gore Gruntas. He's got 5 Ardboys, 10 Ardboys, 5 Brutes, 10 Hamgrat Slittas, and then 2 units of Gore Gruntas. So a lot of bodies here. Well, not a ton of bodies. Some MSU units, a lot of heroes. He's got 6 heroes here. The one, I guess all the heroes are kind of scary. So none of them are, you can be ignored. So that it's got a lot of nice heroes here. We are playing Nidus Paths, and this one has some teleporting in the corners, which I don't think ever actually came up. I deployed my temple in my corner, basically just to block him from ever teleporting anything through the backside. Because if you did, I think I was able to set it up in a way where it just wouldn't be real convenient to put anything back there. So that's where I played my temple. And we basically just ignored the Nidus Paths the rest of the game. Here's our deployment. My temple's off screen there. But I kind of spread out with... Again, I didn't really put any heroes up here, which maybe I should have. But I'm putting this Carnosaur on the bottom right as kind of my bait. To see if, somebody's going to go after that one. I'd kind of rather them kill off that Carnosaur that doesn't have anything on him other than one of my Stegageddons. These Stegageddons are kind of over here with my Troglodon, and these ones are with my General Carnosaur. I am kind of zoned off to where he can't get his Mirebrute Troggoth back behind me anywhere, but he can hit any of my front lines, obviously, or that Carnosaur over here on the right. So that's what he ends up doing. He ends up teleporting he has to go first. He ends up teleporting the Mirebrute Troggoth over to this right side and shooting him into that Carnosaur, and then pulling these Brutes and the Shaman up to that objective on the right side. Basically, everything else just kind of shuffles up a little bit. He didn't really commit the Mega Boss on Maw Crusher yet, or do the Tunnel Master guy. He's kind of holding those back for wave 2 and 3. The Maya Brute Troggoth goes into that Carnosaur, but because of scaly skin, doesn't kill him. He does some decent damage, but the Carnosaur was able to strike back, and I think I just hit. You just got some good rolls, and was able to kill off the Mire Brute. I think it was in that turn. And so that was, I considered that a win. Not to lose my Carnosaur. He had a few wounds left. It's like 2 or something. And to kill off the Mire Brute, that's better than I could have hoped for. Really, that was all saved, though, by Scaly Skin, because he does a lot of attacks, but they're all 2 damage. So was able to survive that. That was nice. I can't remember what all the pictures I have here. Oh. So on my turn, I basically just kind of spread out and push forward. I think this is actually after my turn 2. I do get the priority into 2, and unfortunately, like, I had a lot of shooting, and I took it because I felt like I could shoot off a lot of stuff. I was going to try to put as much damage in the Maw Crusher as I could with all my shooting. Didn't really do a whole lot there. Didn't really kill off a lot of stuff. That double turn, I just really did not capitalize on it very well. Most of it because I didn't have any combat I got into. Well, I got a little bit up here on the top left. I killed off the Hobgrot Slitas, but that was pretty easy. The rest of the shooting didn't do a whole lot, and you kind of look at the board after your turn, and I'm thinking, I didn't really kill much. I was hoping to kill more. What I did do is I did get this Stegageddon up here within 12 of the Maw Crusher, so he can't do his extra movement stuff. And I'm basically just spreading out on the board. I know that Maw Crusher is going to come in. I'm trying to provide some targets that he's got to hit before he can come back into my back lines. So maybe I can counterpunch on the next turn. He wasn't able to really take this one back. He was able to take this objective back, and I think he killed off that Stegageddon between the Maw Crusher and some other stuff. He charged this one. I may have been able to hold him up for a turn with that Stegageddon. I can't quite recall. The main fight was between the Maw Crusher and this Stegageddon back over here on the left. He may have gotten into the next turn, I think, from turn 2 to 3. I think he may have gotten priority. I don't recall. And he ended up with the Maw Crusher over on that Stegageddon, and the Stegageddon actually was able to take it. It was pretty nice. He didn't leave a lot of wounds left, but he left enough to where on my next turn I was able to just focus fire everything into that Maw Crusher and kill it off. So at that point, he had sent his Gore Gruntas down into the Bastildon. And I was able to buff up that Bastildon, weather that attack, and then counter attack with my General and the Carnosaur. Once that Carnosaur was pumped up, he was able to kill off the Gore Gruntas for me. So at that point, his Maw Crusher, his Gore Gruntas are all gone. He's got a few Ardboys up here and a few Ardboys on his objective, and his Mega Boss trying to come in on my flank. So at that point, he didn't really have enough models left over to really push hard into my zone and grab any objectives or kill any units. And so at that point, it was kind of just let's see, that's the last picture. That was a mop-up game, and I was able to clear the table by the end of the game. So a lot of fun. It was a good one. I think it came down to Scaly Skin saved me. He had a lot of multi-damage attacks, and he kept leaving monsters on a couple of wounds. And so I was able to keep them alive, start getting them back up on wounds, and then take out the stuff that was left over. So Scaly Skin saved me in this one. Definitely the reduction of damage was vital in keeping my big monsters alive to kill the rest of the orcs. All right, so got a win in game 2. On to game 3. Game 3, playing against Steven. He's one of the better players here in Dallas. He's playing Slaves to Darkness, and he's got a lot of bodies here. We've got a Chaos Sorcerer Lord, 2 of those, and then Zarisha Bittersoul. I don't know. Teleporting guy, I think, that comes with a warband. Didn't do a whole lot in this game other than kind of grabbing an objective or something. But battle line, we have a reinforced unit of Chaos Chosen. Very punchy. They're Mark of Zinch. A Chaos Warriors, Mark of Nurgle, of course. That one's reinforced as well. Corvus Cabal, and then Chaos Knights reinforced in Khorne. So got some some different marks to do very specific things here. So we got some extra attacks. We got the defensive unit. So a good mix here that's able to play into most armies. He's also got a Chaos Gargant. That's some nice tech there that can give a -1 to save aura if you're in melee with it. He was kind of pushing that in with the Chaos Warriors to make them even tougher. But I think he was saying this thing got shot off the board just about every game. So it may be one area of improvement that he might make to this list. We're playing Silk Steel Nests. This has 8 objectives on it. Luckily, I have 8 monsters. Now, this one you can burn off objectives as the game goes on. It really does force you to spread out and or press the attack hard if your opponent doesn't have any teleporting. I don't have any teleporting, so he can instantly leave all his objectives, and he doesn't have to worry about it. So this is where the narrative list of all monsters kind of comes back to hurt you, where you don't have anything to really threaten the backfield. One small unit of Chameleon Skinks would be fantastic for this, because that's going to force him to hold those objectives back there. You see our deployment here. I'm playing that temple, as a defensive, trying to block out this lane. I did have to deploy everything before he really deployed anything meaningful, so he's able to counter-deploy exactly what he wants. So he saw I had put my big force here on this middle objective, so he, of course, puts his big block of Chaos Warriors and Chaos Chosen right there to push him right down my throat into these monsters. He's got it kind of light over on this right side, and then his Chaos Knights are on the left flank, and they're going to come in and hit this Carnosaur over here, and then start working their way into my territory. So one very good reason to go high drops is that this strategy works very well. If you know exactly where the enemy's at, you can deploy smarter to where you can answer what they have on the board. So I did outdrop him. I think in hindsight, I probably should have gone first so that he couldn't get any buffs up, and tried to just shoot as many Chaos Warriors off the board as possible, or hit the Chaos Knights or something. But because this list is kind of goofy, I really have no way to get across the board in turn 1 unless I just get real lucky and roll a 10 charge from these Stegageddons. So I knew that he couldn't get to me with the Warriors, and I was safe from them, so I was going to let him go first. I did kind of underestimate how fast these Knights were going to go. If I had known he was going to put them over here, I probably would have lined up the Carnosaur back further. Obviously, he got to dictate where those went, so I didn't really know if he was going to line them up on the line or not. So if I hadn't put a Carnosaur over here, he probably would have just put the Knights on the right side. Who knows. But those Knights were able to clear across the board turn 1 and get into that Carnosaur. He didn't quite kill the Carnosaur off. He left it on like 1 or 2 wounds, but it forced me to have to retreat him out of combat on my turn, which meant that Carnosaur was basically out of the game, and then he was able to take it out on his next turn. He did basically just march these Chaos Warriors. Yep, here we go. He was able to march these Chaos Warriors into the middle and get them fully buffed up. And now I've got to deal with them because they're right there in front of me, and they're going to come start taking my objective. And the way the board is, it's going to take me too many turns to get all the way over to the right and swing up to that way, which probably in hindsight I probably should have started doing. It would have been better than what I eventually did. You can see his Knights are coming down over here on the left to kill off that Carnosaur. So that's, he's into this Carnosaur in his turn. My turn, when it starts, I'm like, well, let's go fight the Warriors. Let's see if 4 Stegaddons and a Carnosaur can kill off 20 Chaos Warriors. Well, your answer is no, they cannot. I think I only got 3 Stegaddons into him and the General. I buffed up the General as high as he could, and then all 3 Stegaddons all go into this unit, as well as shooting from everything I had. I killed off the Chaos Gargant with shooting, but then everything else went to these warriors. I killed off 10 Chaos Warriors with 4 monsters and all the shooting. So that's you. It was really apparent where the Rend makes a huge difference, because his warriors were basically only failing ones for shooting and melee, because he had Mystic Shield on him. He was doing I don't think he was doing all out defense when the monsters were in combat, but something else on there that gives him another +1, I think. I can't remember what it was. But maybe it was the banner or the Mark of Nurgle. I think that gives him a ward. I don't remember. Whatever it was, these guys were impossible to kill. They were able to hit back decently hard enough to do some damage to the Stegaddons, not really kill them off or anything, which is good. If I could get the turn into the next one, then maybe I could finish these guys off. But he got the priority and pulled these warriors out of combat, charged in with the Chaos Chosen, and was able to kill off most of the Stegaddons there in his turn. So there's after that. After his second turn, he sends in the Knights to kill off that last Carnosaur. I had retreated my Troglodon out, but now I've lost all my Stegaddons. All I've got left is 1 Carnosaur, a Basilodon, and the Troglodon. And my turn, I'm not able to really do a whole lot. I do as much as I can, but then on his next turn, he's able to kill off basically the rest of my army other than the Basilodon. And at that point, he owns every single objective except 1. He owns 7 objectives, and I only own 1. So it came down, I think, to this combat here. If I could have cleared those Chaos Warriors, then maybe I could have had a fighting chance. But on his next turn, he still brought in the Chaos Chosen, and they were able to just wipe me out. So I think for me to have a chance in this game, I would have had to have cleared off those Chaos Warriors in my turn, gotten the priority, and hit those Chaos Chosen hard. And then maybe I could have had a fighting chance. I still would have had a problem with these Knights coming all the way over here, but I could have focused a little bit more fire onto them, maybe from the Basilodon on the next turn. So, good game. It was apparent that the lack of Rend was hurting me here, because those guys could be so tough, and I only had -1 Rend. I just wasn't able to bust through those Chaos Warriors. So, yep, we need a little empower. The Celestite and a Spawn of Chotek might help out that Rend issue and help me punch through those Chaos Warriors in the next battletome. So, in conclusion, would I play this list again? Absolutely. 8 monsters is just so much fun. It's definitely an easy play style, but, it had a little bit of shooting, it had a little bit of magic, had a little bit of melee, had a little bit of board presence with having 8 different monsters and counting on 5 on objectives. So, it was fun. Charging all the Stegaddons into a target can usually do quite a bit of damage. Not necessarily against some of the harder things in the meta right now, but it's still a lot of fun. So, 8 monsters, I recommend it. Although in the new battletome, you're going to have to work really hard to get 8 monsters, and I don't think it's quite as good. This list wasn't that great. I went 1 and 2, but I went 3 and 0 in fun. All right, guys. That was a fun one, and I'll catch you next time.